go anywhere. This is What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. He's the founder of the Means Financial Group. I'm Spike Spengel. Jerry, what's on your mind this week, my friend?
Well, I thought we would talk about retirement blind spots that people have when they get into retirement. Things they're not aware of or they haven't thought enough about. Maybe it's crossed their mind, but they just haven't really dove deep into that. And some of those things that maybe we can help people with.
Yeah, or get surprised by, and that we want to shine a light on what some of those retirement blind spots might be. Because you sit down, you talk with people all of the time. You want to help people avoid some of these mistakes. So a great program. Don't go anywhere. We're going to cover as many as we possibly can. One of the first things when you sent me some notes was that people are often surprised at how they're invested when they walk into your office. That one surprises me. I mean, people don't understand how much risk they're taking when they walk in. I mean, weren't they the ones who made the selections in their investment accounts?
Well, there are people who are very in tune with how much risk they have, and they're following it and they're looking at it every day. But there's a big part of the retirement population or investment population that don't look at those every day. And they don't realize that they haven't made adjustments in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And now they're approaching retirement. And they're seeing some big swings and volatility in the market now. I mean, we had kind of a heyday from 2009 to 2019 was one of the greatest bull markets that we'd ever seen. 2020 kind of woke people up a little bit with the pandemic. Although if they held on and they didn't panic, that year didn't turn out so bad at the end of the year. 21 was a good year, but 22, a lot of people kind of got surprised and caught off guard, even if they were conservative, because their idea of conservative was being in bonds, and even the bond market got crushed in 2022. So I'm having a lot of people call into the show or come to one of our live events, and they're coming in and they're saying, hey, I don't want to get surprised like this again. I'm too close to retirement, or I'm already retired, and this really hurt my portfolio because I'm making withdrawals, and the money's not in there to come back when the market bounces back. So I always sit down and look at how much risk is in a client's portfolio. And if they allow me to, we do a full analysis of that. And I show them in a second meeting, okay, here's how risky you are invested. Here's how much is overseas. Here's how much is in the US. And it's funny because people will tell me, my 401k company never showed me this. I mean, their job is very basic, right? I mean, pick out of these 30 plans, usually they're target date funds. Or they have an advisor. Maybe they've even worked with an advisor for 20 years, but they don't talk to them all the time, or they talk to them, but they're not really making adjustments. Maybe their advisor has gotten a little bit complacent, because there really is 3 phases of money in the financial world. The accumulation phase, that's your working years. When you're dumping money into that plan, you're getting the matching. Then you have the preservation and the distribution phase. The preservation phase starts before you retire. It's those years, that financial red zone we always talk about, the 5 or 10 years going into retirement, where you really need to look at the risk in your portfolio, the fees in your portfolio, the potential tax that you're going to pay on your income in retirement. And then we want to look at the distribution phase. How are we going to take all this money we've saved our entire life in these working years in the accumulation phase, not lose it overnight, but also how do we distribute it to ourselves? What is our written income plan? Not a verbal plan, a written plan, because verbal plans seem to kind of get forgotten or fade away. But if you have a written plan that you're constantly reviewing and adjusting, people tend to stay on course. And so when I sit down with someone, I'll ask, how do you feel about the markets, right? We have all these tests and quizzes that we can do, and those are a good idea and a good tool. But I like to hear right from their mouth, like in your mind right now, how do you feel about risk? Do you feel you're conservative, kind of middle of the road? Are you aggressive or somewhere in between? And most people that I'm sitting down with, because I'm working in the retirement market, are saying, well, I'm kind of moderate, maybe a little bit conservative, or one spouse is moderate, one's conservative. Once in a while I get someone who says, oh, I'm kind of aggressive, the markets don't bother me. But some of those conservative, moderate people, when I look at their portfolio, some of them will actually say on a back page, I've had a client come in, and she said, Jerry, I don't understand why I lost so much in my portfolio. I should be a little bit safer invested right now, I would think, at my age. And my advisor says I'm going to be okay, but I lost 22% last year, so how can that be? And I show her on the back of the page in the fine print, it says, this is an aggressive portfolio, and wow, why didn't they make an adjustment? Well, sometimes it's just complacency, right? So I'll sit down and say, here's some alternative things that we can do. By the way, here's some places you can save on taxes, and here's an income plan that we can do for you. And they say, wow, I've learned more in this meeting than I've learned in the last 10 years with my advisor. And that's our goal, is when people leave our office, whether they work with us or not, to leave them a little bit better than we found them.
Yeah. So the blind spot here, sort of not really having an investment strategy. We've been putting money into investments themselves inside your 401ks or 403b or 457, but having those isn't necessarily a plan, a strategy, or even a risk tolerance. At that point, we're just funding them. So the blind spot being not really knowing what your investment strategy even is.
Yeah, and the other downfall or the blind spot is people plan just for their paychecks, right? They're designing their own paychecks. They forget about the play checks, right? Because when you retire, every day is a Saturday. So some people are okay just going from retirement to the couch, right, and not doing much. But today's retirees, I really don't see that very often. They're either doing second, careers that are part-time, or things that they love. Maybe they're getting into arts and crafts, or maybe it's golf, travel, whatever it may be. I have clients that take cruises like every 3 months. You have to fund those in retirement. It's not just your mug, right? Your mortgage, utility, groceries. It's the fun things that you want to do as well. And that's why our show is called What Retirement Means to You, because I really sit down with people and say, what does your picture look like in your mind when you retire? And what steps have you taken to do that? And if you just have money in a 401k, a 403b, TSP, and you've saved whatever dollar amount that is, you're right, it's not a plan. That's their assets, that's what they've saved, and that's where you start. But now there's so much more that goes into it, and that's what we help people with on the On Track Review.
So that's exactly what we want to offer right now to all of the viewers. Jerry Means, financial advisor right here in the greater St. Louis area, will do an on-track retirement review, and all you have to do is reach out to the phone number or scan the QR code. There is no cost to you. There is no obligation. You might have a financial person already in your life. We're not asking you to change from what you're doing, but why don't you get a review to find out if you're saving enough, if you're investing for the risk tolerance of where you're at in life? Are there tax strategies that you might be unaware of that can help you keep more of your own hard-earned money in retirement? Do you want to start talking about legacy planning? How do we keep those assets in our family, in our family tree? All of that is part of the On Track Retirement Review, and it's no cost to you. Call that phone number right now. Let's get you started on your own On Track Retirement Review with your financial advisor, Jerry Means. We'll be right back after these messages.
I started working in the retirement market, seeing people during the day. And what I quickly found out is they had a really unique set of challenges that were different than everyone else. They were worried about longevity and outliving their money, worried about, long-term care, how they were going to leave their legacy to their children and grandchildren. So I really focused my practice on that, and that's what I've been helping people with for the last 25 years. It's an ongoing process. Life changes, family dynamics change, the markets, the political environment change. So really sitting down and have a written plan. We want to make sure that you stay on track to stay retired. Right? The worst thing is to be 80 years old, run out of money, and have to go back to work. We want to stress test all these different scenarios and make sure that their plan is going to stand the test of time. And you can't do that if you don't have a written plan or a strategy in place.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You, our viewers, with Jerry Means, a financial advisor and the founder of the Means Financial Group. By the way, while you're watching this program, let's keep it interactive. You can also go to meansfinancialgroup.com to find out more about what Jerry and his team can do for you. Retirement blind spots. One of the big blind spots today is Social Security. A lot of folks are talking about taking it early to try to boost their savings and out of a concern of it not being there down the road. What are the blind spots of turning it on early?
Well, first, let me give you kind of my take on Social Security. And again, this is more opinion than fact, so I want to make sure I make that clear. But we'll talk a little bit about history. So before 1983, you could always draw Social Security early at 62, but everyone got full retirement benefits at age 65. We call it full retirement age, or FRA, because again, the industry loves the acronyms. Everyone was eligible at 65 to get full benefits. But in 1983, the system was seeing problems like it's seeing today, where people are getting their statements. They'll see, by the year 2030 something, the Social Security could pay 25% less benefits, and that scares a lot of people. So they think, well, I'm going to draw early while I can get it. I think that's a big misconception. I don't see Social Security paying 25% less. I really don't. I see maybe some tweaks coming to the system to avoid that. One of those tweaks were like the one in 1983. In 1983 is when they said, okay, we're going to start taxing Social Security up to 50% of your benefits depending on your income. But one of the other changes that happened in 1983 was when they came up with the Social Security FRA, or full retirement benefit, being based off of your date of birth. So for some people it was 65 still, they were fathered in, but then it was 66 in so many months, and the 67 was the cutoff. Everyone was eligible at age 67. That little tweak basically bought the Social Security system another 20, 30 years just by making that little tweak. And someone that's retiring today that's not quite 67, back in 1983, they weren't worried about 2 more years before they could draw their full benefit.
Yeah.
They were in their working years, they're like, Social Security so far down the road. So it was kind of an easy way to make that adjustment. And then in 1993, they made another adjustment saying they would tax up to 85% of the benefit. So I see that changing. Maybe the next generation has to wait until they're 68 or 69. Maybe there's going to be some kind of tweak like that. Again, this is just opinion. I don't see any politician coming in and allowing existing Social Security to be cut by 25%. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. So the fact of drawing early just to avoid that could be a huge pitfall, because if you're still working, you could end up paying, if depending on your income, $1 for every $2 that you make. And you're also getting that lower benefit, and we've talked about longevity and how long people are living, so you're getting that lower benefit for a longer period of time. What we do is we sit down and help people figure out, okay, if you do need the income, let's look at your assets. How can we bridge it and get you that higher Social Security check? Also, we want to look at the 2 spouses. If they're married, what's the age differences? How much benefit difference is there between spouse 1 and spouse 2? Sometimes it does make sense for the younger spouse, or excuse me, the younger spouse or the spouse with the lower income to go ahead and start theirs and let this income, the bigger one, continue to grow, because if one of them passes away, they get the bigger of the 2 checks. So sometimes it can make sense for one to start and not the other, not necessarily an all or nothing. We have software programs, it's called Social Security Analyzer, where we sit down and plug in all of the numbers, help people figure out, okay, what are the break-even points? And what are other strategies that we can use to bridge that gap? So Social Security timing is a big part of what we do when we sit down with people.
Oh, thank you. So eye-opening on all of that. And especially if people are wanting to turn on because they want to get a little bit of that income started, build it up into savings. Well, maybe we could have our spouse, especially if they were going to have a lower Social Security. Maybe we start theirs, hold off on yours, try to let it grow. But again, as Jerry was saying, it's all completely individual. Everybody's answer is different. You might look online. We've talked about this a lot before. Of course, there's a lot of answers on the internet, but are they correct, and do they apply to you? Why don't you sit down with somebody and get a dedicated, tailored answer for yourself? And here's the thing. We like and respect the Social Security Administration, but they're not allowed to give you financial planning advice. So you can go to SSA.gov. You can get your report before turning on Social Security of how much you would get at different ages and stages of your life. But then you could take that report, or even just a screenshot, bring it into your financial advisor. Do you encourage them to go to SSA.gov before coming to you, or can they do it in the office with you?
Well, when someone does schedule an on-track review, Jen in my office sends out a packet to them, and it has things that they may want to bring to get the most out of the appointment. It might be their budget sheet. How much are you spending? Sometimes they bring that in a second meeting, and that's okay. But we send it out right away when they make an appointment. We also give them a cheat sheet on how to go on, and if they don't know how to download the Social Security statement, we send them a cheat sheet, and Jen's happy to walk people through to figure out how to do that. And you mentioned people taking it to their advisor. The problem is a lot of the big wirehouses or big box firms, however you want to phrase it, really don't want to touch that conversation. It's not just the Social Security office, but a lot of advisory firms don't really want to touch on Social Security, because the wirehouses or the big box firms, they want to keep it to the accumulation phase, and they don't want liabilities of giving someone the wrong advice. But as an independent advisor and being a retirement planner, to me, it's just so essential. I mean, Social Security is a supplement, But man, it can be a big part of the income plan. So let's get it right the first time, because it's not like you can go back and fix it later.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you like to have the conversation. And you're right. Now, there's only like one little small way where you can redo Social Security, and that's within the first 12 months of you turning it on. And to redo it and reset the clock, you also have to give back everything that you've been paid.
It's not the ideal situation.
Not the ideal situation. And you may have already spent that money, or you have to take it out from savings or even tax-deferred savings. So really, there's only one exception of a redo on Social Security.
We want to help people get it right the first time.
You want to get it right. You want to get it right the absolute first time. So do you build that into then kind of income modeling? Because a big phrase today is dividends. Can we use dividends to build income? Income for you, it's partially Social Security. I like that you just said the word supplemental. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be looking at Social Security as like the main driving force of our income. What kind of like percentage threshold do you like Social Security to be on our income?
Well, again, that's a tailored thing from client to client, and what their spending habits are going to be or what they are. So we have to look at how much assets they have to to figure that out. But Social Security was always meant to be a supplement to retirement. But we also know most people had pensions back then. So it was the Social Security supplemented their pensions. And now that less people have pensions and have 401ks and 403bs and those qualified plans, they have to design their own income plan. So that's where we come in and say, okay, how much of this do we use to bridge you to get the most out of Social Security? That's the first thing that we want to look at. But after we figure out how much your spending is, people will come in and they'll say, Jerry, here's my portfolio. I've got $500,000. I've got $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever the number is. And they'll say, do you think I have enough to retire? Well, that's kind of a loaded question. I don't know until we do a deep dive in how much debt do you have, how much spending, are you taking care of adult children that have a disability at home? Like, I really got to get to know the client and know what their situation is going to look like. And that's what what retirement means to you and the on-track review is all about, is sitting down, finding out what their need is or their problem, and then presenting solutions. And often, when we do all the things that we cover, it tackles those things. So we're looking at, what is your income plan? How much taxes are you paying? What is your fees in your portfolio? Do you have a long-term care plan? Do you have a legacy plan? Is legacy important to you? So there's all these different things that we talk about with people, and we do that at no cost and no obligation. So if you give us a call, 844-878-1293, come into our office, sit down with myself or a member of my team. We will take you through the process. And again, no cost, no obligation. And there's no pressure. We just want to sit down and get to know you. Think of it as a visit versus an appointment. So give us a call, 844-878-1293.
So easy to get in touch. No obligation. You get your complete on-track retirement review, so you can either dial that phone number right now, or if you want to, I know you got your phone in your hand as well, open it up to the camera function and point it at this QR code. Click on it. It'll take you over to the website. You can schedule your own appointment right now at the convenient time for you. More of what retirement means to you with Jerry Means right after this.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Jerry Means with Means Financial Group. If you've amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. All of our advisors are fiduciaries, specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with Jerry Means. He's the president and the founder of the Means Financial Group. If you are seeing us on the airwaves, anywhere around here, no matter where you're at, even if you're headed down to the Ozarks to enjoy yourself during the middle of the year here, it is boat season. That's something we were talking about pre-show. You can still give us a call and we'll get you started on your own on-track retirement review. You sent me a funny note as far as retirement blind spots. You say, be careful about listening to the loudest person in your life about financial advice. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone has water coolers anymore, but that the water cooler talk where, or my neighbor, my neighbor.
Oh yeah, over the fence post.
Yeah,
right?
my neighbor did really well in retirement. Well, how old is your neighbor? Oh, my neighbor's 20 years older, so he's giving me advice. Well, his retirement looks completely different than my retirement, right? Because 20 years ago, different products, different interest rates, different vehicles, things have changed, different tax codes. So a lot of times people just will look to someone in their life that they feel is a successful person, which is okay to bounce things off of them and have them as a sounding board. But you can't really take everything that they say as the golden ticket to retirement, right? You have to have strategies that are updated. And sometimes people like to brag more about their returns and things that they've done. They always want to put themselves in the best light. They don't want to talk about their losers or some of the bad things that have happened. So I just say take those things with a grain of salt. Really sit down and get a good financial plan.
Well, it's a good point, is who are you getting your financial advice from? And I'll even say it in that financial world. Because there's a lot of times you've heard people say to you before, well, I've got a person who helps me with my insurance, or I've got a person who helps me with my investments. It's at my 401k, or maybe you've got somebody who's got some sort of attorney in their friend circle in there, but are they an estate planning attorney? Are they a retirement planning investment advisor? Is your tax person verbalized in how you actually save money for yourself in your retirement years? The difference is, who are you getting your advice from?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily do you want the attorney that's fixing your tickets to be the same one that does your trusts and wills and durable documents. That's a general practitioner, right? That's not a specialist. Same thing, if you're working with someone that's insurance license only, everything that they look at, life insurance or annuities, is a solution. Same thing if you look at someone that's investment licensed but don't, work on the insurance side. To them, everything is going to be investment minded. We wear dual hats at our firm. So we're insurance licensed, we're investment licensed. We're looking at what tools will help our client accomplish their goals. Nothing wrong with either one of those, but there's not one product or one solution that fits everyone.
Right. As far as retirement blind spot, you just mentioned that world of insurance. One of the blind spots is people either not wanting to use life insurance or kind of using the same tools they had when they had kids and a family and growing. Is a blind spot not evaluating your insurance and your insurance tools later on in life? Do we really even need life insurance tools if we're near our retirement years? I mean, if the kids are out of the house and they're taking care of themselves, life insurance might be good for passing on to our spouse tax-free, but reviewing of insurance, how important is it in retirement?
Well, life insurance today looks a lot different, again, than it did 25, 30 years ago. And when I'm sitting down with a retiree or someone that's nearing retirement, we're not just looking at life insurance from a burial standpoint, right? If they have $1 million portfolio, they don't need a $15,000 burial life insurance policy. It's not bad if they have one, but it's not necessarily what we're there to talk about. But if they want to leave a legacy, if that's important to them, life insurance can be an extraordinary tool. I've used the phrase before, but pennies buy dollars, right? You're leveraging your money. You pay X amount of premium, and you're maybe leaving 4, 5, 6 times that amount. And not only are you leaving it to them, but you're leaving it to them tax-free if it's properly structured. So it can be a great wealth transfer tool. I mean, the wealthy have been using it for a long time. Also, tax-free income. If properly structured, you can fund a life insurance policy, make withdrawals, and have them be tax-free. On top of that, some of them have what's called living benefits, where for long-term care, home health care, they can accelerate that death benefit, get it out early while they're living, and use it for that care. So it can be kind of a triple threat, right? You can grow money tax deferred and pull it out tax-free if properly structured. You can leave a death benefit tax-free if properly structured. And you can have long-term care insurance. So it can be a great tool. They've really evolved. Never hurts to get an illustration. Now, of course, you got to qualify health-wise. That's something that everyone has to look at. But today's products look a lot different than they used to, and it can be a great tool. Is it right for everyone? Of course not. And there's no product that's right for everyone. But depending on their situation, it's worth reviewing. Also, if they have older products, just like we talked about in another show, refinance your retirement when interest rates change, life insurance is one of those tools. I've had people bring old life insurance policies into my office. We were able to revamp that, get them more death benefit, more cash value, more performance, as long as they were still going to be able to qualify health-wise. So life insurance can be a great tool.
Yeah, for both estate planning, and now it sounds like such a wider variety. But again, sooner rather than later, taking a look at these things, because when it comes to the insurance tools, your health does matter, correct?
Yeah, money doesn't buy life insurance, your health does.
Nice.
You know.
And what I also want to go to, that on-track retirement review. As we were just talking about insurance, we don't want you changing the channel there. You are a complete fiduciary financial advisor. This is just one of the many aspects. Investment advisor, tax forward planning, talking about estate planning, life insurance. We just did a middle segment talking about Social Security. Am I leaving anything out? What else is in the on-track retirement review?
Well, we want to look at fees. We want to see what kind of fees they're paying. A lot of people don't really understand. They're going in blind with the amount of fees that they're paying. Not uncommon for someone to call the show, come in, sit down, and say, I don't think I'm paying a lot of fees. My advisor's not charging me, or I don't pay fees in my 401k, which is a huge misconception. There's a lot of fees there. I mean, I had a client come in and basically, you know, he had one of the big box firms or wirehouses, and if you're in St. Louis, you can probably guess, you know, you have a few guesses of what that is. And I sat down, and he had all mutual funds, no exchange traded funds, no equities, all mutual funds. And when we punched in and we looked at what the internal rate of return, or excuse me, the internal rate of cost on those, they had 1%, you know, management fees inside them, and a turnover rate of maybe another 1.5%. They were paying 2.5% internally on those funds. They could have bought an ETF that's performed better with a fraction of those fees. And that makes a huge difference over time in their portfolio. But if they wouldn't have came in, sat down, let us do the on-track review and do the evaluation on their fees, they would have never known that.
Right, and one of the reasons they might have had those higher fee funds is that is what was offered inside their retirement accounts. So there are things you can do to even make your retirement accounts more efficient. 59.5, you can do in-service rollovers. There's a lot you can do. So thank you for bringing up the fee conversation on it. Jerry Means, there's still a lot more retirement blind spots. We got another hour there for our radio show. Maybe we can get to a few more of them there. So if you hear Jerry on the radio, it's the exact same Jerry you see right here on TV. Get started on your own on-track retirement review right now. You can call that phone number down on the bottom of the screen. You can scan this QR code over here and make sure that you come back next week. Thank you so much for watching. Get your own on-track retirement review started right now. We'll be back next week.